We're going to look at 10.3E3F. So this exercise wants you to try to show that these two sentences here are equivalent, this one and this one. This direction, where you start with this and then you derive this, this is fairly easy. You just have to take these quantifiers off and then you put them back on in the other direction. So we start with this assumption, and I mean, you can work bottom up here, right? Do proper strategy and stuff, but we'll just go top down because it's fairly simple if you know the PD rules well. So we have an existential quantifier here, so we'll just use existential or make an assumption for existential elimination, where we'll take that y and we'll replace it with the constant a. So this is an assumption for existential elimination. The next, we're going to take off that universal quantifier. So we'll use a new constant here. So we'll say B here. So this is 2 universal elimination. And now that we've got the quantifiers off, we just need to put them back on in the opposite order. So first, we put on the existential quantifier. So we will have, there is a y, a, b, or by. By existential introduction. And now at this point, we've gotten rid of the a that we introduced in this assumption. So we can actually end the subderivation here and use existential elimination. But we can also we can do the universal introduction as well inside the subderivation. It doesn't matter either way. So we'll use universal introduction on to get rid of that, the b. We can do that here because that's not an open assumption anywhere. So that's 4 universal introduction. And then we're getting this line here from, this is lines 1 and then 2 to 5, existential elimination. So fairly short and straightforward derivation. Just a matter of switching the order of the quantifiers around. The other direction, though, is rather trickier. And the reason it's trickier is because of this. So if you start off the same way that you started that one, right? So you start off by taking those quantifiers off. Well, you take the universal quantifier off first, right? So we use universal elimination to do that. Then to get this existential quantifier off, we're going to need to we'll make an assumption for existential elimination. So now we're at the same point where we were in the middle of that, the previous derivation. Now what we need to do is we need to put the quantifiers back on, right? And now you run into a problem. You can't use universal introduction here because we would want to use universal introduction on this B, and that's in an open assumption. So according to the provisos of universal introduction, you can't use that rule on it. So you can't just go and take the quantifiers off and then put them back on in the same straightforward way. What you have to do this one is you have to figure out a way of getting the quantifiers off and putting them back on that doesn't involve having to use universal introduction in a when you've got the constant you're trying to apply it to in an open assumption. And that gets a little bit tricky, but it's certainly doable.